10-game slate in the NBA yesterday, and let's start off with the Toronto Raptors winning 115 to 107 over the 76ers. Talk about Toronto's really impressive win. Let's talk about the big story of this game, and it was the free throws. That was a Toronto Raptors team franchise record for the most amount of free throws in a game for both teams combined, as there were 99 free throw attempts. Yes, 99 free throw attempts. Both teams on average took 49 and a half free throws this game. The Sixers took 53 of them. Toronto took 46 of them. It was an interesting game, but give credit to Toronto for how short-handed and undermanned they were. Let's think about it. No Emmanuel Quickly, no R.J. Barrett, no Bruce Brown, no Kelly Olynyk. I understand the Sixers don't have Embiid and PG, but what a win for this team. They were hustling tremendously. They killed the Sixers on the glass, and they had a strong night on the defensive side of the ball. So even though their offense was really rough at times, I mean, they had a whopping 26 turnovers. They were really sloppy with the basketball, and it just showed all their young depth, their inexperience, but they hustled. They completely outworked the Sixers at almost every single facet of this game. The team that wanted it more won, and it was shown throughout the game. Even though the Sixers kept it close most of the way, Toronto was just attacking, hound dogging, doing a fantastic job doing the little things and forcing the Sixers to have another bad night on the offensive side of the ball. Scotty Barnes led the charge for them after his rough opening night game against the Cavaliers and having to guard Evan Mobley. He did a much better job tonight. 27 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, was really efficient on the offensive side of the ball, had a great fourth quarter, and all around just had a strong night. Also had a good night, especially in the first half, as he had 19 points, 9 rebounds, was great in the interior. He got 4 blocks and also had an efficient night. Mitchell started the game off well. He finished with 8 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. I believe 6 of those points came in the first frame, but he was having a bit of an issue guarding Tyrese Maxey, and this led to Coach Darko Radkovic switching to Jamal Sheed more later in the game. Even though Sheed had 7 turnovers, wasn't as good on the offensive side of the ball, he was doing a fantastic job at pestering Tyrese Maxey, played great defense on him all game long, and made his life hell. And that was a great adjustment by Darko Radkovic. And give Toronto's youth credit, all around, they had a great game. It may have been ugly, and their turnovers may have been a little, not a little rough, really rough at points. They had a lot of passes that just flew into the third row, and it was interesting to watch. But besides that, they hustled. They had heart, and I'd be really encouraged if I were a Raptors fan. This is a great win against a rival team. Before I go to talk about the Sixers, shout out to Ochai Agbaji. He also had a pretty solid night with 12 points and 9 rebounds. It was looking like it was going to be a great game for Tyrese Maxey in the first quarter. He came out firing early, was making the right reads. He had 4 assists in the first quarter. Not only that, he had double-digit points on efficient shooting, but he was 3 of his last 16 shots, finishes the night at 5 of 21, goes 2 of 11 from 3, I believe, and it was just not good for him down the stretch. He was making really bad decisions. Again, it reminded me a lot of how he played in that Milwaukee game. Wasn't really looking for the kick out, was trying to bring the Sixers back in the game, but in trying to bring the Sixers back in the game, all he was doing was harming them, because whenever he touched the ball and he was sizing up in isolation, Toronto knew that there was a very likely chance he was going to shoot. And it's 2 games into the year. It's Tyrese Maxey. He's going to figure it out. But when you look at this is a Sixers team that is going to try and rest Joel Embiid and Paul George as much as possible. You're playing a Toronto team that is extremely undermanned. This is a game that you just cannot lose. And they came in completely unprepared. Give credit to the Raptors. The better team won this game. If you watch that game, Toronto completely outplayed them, even with the sloppy turnovers. And you got to do better than this if you're Philadelphia. Turnovers and had his issues, but the best Sixer was Kelly Oubre last night. 28 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, was above 50% from the field, and made 3 of his 6 threes as well. It was not a good night for Andre Drummond. He has 11 points, 9 rebounds, a very inefficient 4 of 11 shooting, and did not dominate the glass like the Sixers would have wanted him to. The other bright spots for the Sixers were Kyle Lowry, who had a solid night on the offensive end, and Gershon Yabusele, who I don't know where it does seem like a good signing off the bench. But outside of that, this is one of those games where you just take the tape and you burn it, because this is a really, really bad loss for the Sixers. To rebound and get their first win of the season Sunday in Indiana, while Toronto actually plays again tonight in Minnesota. The Orlando Magic won 116-101 over the Brooklyn Nets. Brooklyn was able to keep this game close for a while. It was a more defensive first half. Both teams back and forth throughout most of the half. First quarter was neither team could really gain an edge. Orlando jumped out to a quick run. Nets quickly countering. They go back and forth for a little while. Orlando does the same thing in the second quarter. Jumps out, quick run, goes up double digits. The Nets quickly counter. They come right back, run of their own, make it close heading into the half, and start out the first few minutes looking fine. But about midway through the third quarter, Orlando just caught fire. The Magic had a sensational second half on the offensive side of the ball. Shoot, I believe, both 58% from the field and from 3 in the second half. Brooklyn, even though they had a solid second half on the offensive side of the ball, it was nowhere near the level of Orlando's. They were able to pull away, get the win. Orlando 2-0, Brooklyn 0-2 now. It was led by Franz Wagner, who outside of a 1-6 second quarter was absolutely terrific tonight. He had 29 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, was 10 of 19 from the field, 3 of 6 from 3 in his second consecutive game. The one thing that people were worried about heading into the season was that 3-point jumper, and through the first few games, it's looked really crisp. He's been confident, and he's been shooting it really well. Paolo Banchero last night. Outside of the third quarter where he made all of his shots, it was not a good night shooting-wise for him. I believe he went just 4 of 13 from the field. However, I did like his passing a lot. He had 5 assists in the first quarter, and he was making a lot of the correct reads, especially since Brooklyn made it clear that their defensive strategy was going to be to blitz him, to stop him at all costs, and he did a good job reading those double teams, reading the passing lanes, and even though his shooting wasn't very good, I'd be really encouraged if I were an Orlando fan just watching his passing, because it looks really good so far this year. Bigs also had a solid night. We had a more rebounding style night from Wendell Carter Jr., 8, 11, and 4. I believe he shot 3 of 5 from the field. And off the bench, Mo Wagner provided a bunch of scoring. He gets 18 points, 3 rebounds on a very efficient 7 of 8 shooting for him. Good night all around for Orlando's bigs as well. Black played well. He had 10 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists off the bench. Did a nice job doing all the little things as well. And Jalen Suggs and KCP also were in double figures, both shooting around 50%. It may have been a little ugly at points, but all around, strong double-digit win for the Magic. Led the Nets in scoring. He had 24 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, shot a little under 50%. He goes 7 of 17 from the field, and it was a tale of 2 halves for him. That first half, he was dreadful. He goes just 1 of 7 from the field. Does not look good at all, but he goes 6 of 10 in the second half, becomes much more settled in as the game goes on, and does a much better job as the game progressed, especially against a really good Orlando defense. also had a solid night. He had 20 points, 6 assists, and was one of the only good players for the Nets in the first half. Brooklyn was ice cold on the offensive side of the ball in the first half, and Dennis Schroeder was one of the only ones that wasn't. He was kind of, keeping them in this game. He had 14 points, was making a few nice plays. Didn't have as good of a second half, but I think that was also partially because Cam Thomas really started taking over. Other guy that seemed to have a good night for the Nets was Dorian Finney-Smith. He had 15 points, 6 rebounds, was 6 of 10 shooting. He made 3 of his 6 threes, and here's a little statistic for you. Dennis Schroeder, Cam Thomas, and Dorian Finney-Smith were 9 of 15 from 3 as a collective. Very strong. The rest of the Brooklyn Nets were 5 of 22. Those 3 guys, strong nights. The rest of the team, not so much. Really a good night for the rest of the Nets. Cam Johnson, 4-12 from the field, 2 of 10 from 3. Nick Claxton did not look good on his minutes restriction. Off the bench, you got some nice plays from guys like Thayer Williams and Noah Clowney, but nothing crazy. And finally, Ben Simmons had 7 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, and all 7 of those points came in a row in a few-minute stretch in the third quarter where he was actually really aggressive, was attacking the lane, and it was the moment of like, oh my God, that's Ben Simmons. That's the guy we all thought was going to be really good in his rookie year. And it's such a shame to see what he's become now because teams have been able to figure out so easily that if you just play this far back, not only do you not have to worry about the shooting, but the other thing that comes into it is the guy who is now guarding Ben Simmons is worrying about the passing lanes and is easily able to make him turn over the ball more. And it makes Ben Simmons not as good of a passer. This is another thing that I see with Josh Giddey, where the guy on him just plays back, attempts to get the passing lanes, forces more turnovers, doesn't make him as good of a playmaker as if he was a shooter, And that's one of those interesting things to think about when Ben Simmons is on the court. Yeah, his playmaking is great, but will he still be able to do it with just how smart teams have become, especially an amazing defensive team like the Orlando Magic? And they did a really good job on him last night and showed the big flaws that he still has in his game. Look to become 3-0 with a win tonight against the Memphis Grizzlies, and the Nets do not play again Sunday until they play the Bucks. The old Uno reverse card last night. After their opening night blowout loss, they destroyed the Indiana Pacers 123-98 in a win that had to feel good against the team that eliminated them in the postseason last year. The first about 16, 18 minutes, this game was close. It was back and forth. Neither team could really gain the edge in a more defensive start to this game, but the Knicks' shots started falling about midway through the midway through the second quarter, and they never looked back. They just caught fire. They were hitting shot after shot after shot, while the Pacers were not able to hit any type of three, and the Knicks turned this game from close to absolute blowout in about a 5 to 10 minute stretch, and then in the third quarter they made it even worse as the Knicks went up by as much as 33 at one point. Total blowout win for them. They looked great on the offensive end, and it was a win they needed after that rough opening night performance. Everyone in the Knicks starting five had a good night on the offensive side of the ball last night. The Knicks as a team go 52.4% for the field, 44.4% from three as I look at it. 12 of 27 from downtown. They dominate more in the interior than they do the perimeter. Let's start with Bodega Cat. How about him after his slightly inefficient, not very good opening night? Comes back, has a strong game, 21 points, 15 rebounds. Yeah, he does shoot under 50%, goes 5 of 11, but he makes both of his threes, and he gets to the line 10 times. Does a nice job at doing all the little things and has a good game. Jalen Brunson leads New York in scoring. He goes 26 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, shot just above 50%, also made 3 of his 6 threes. Mikal Bridges, after his rough first half against Boston, strong second half, has a really good game. He has 21 points, 1 rebound, 5 assists. Started off this game unbelievably strong, finishes the night going 8 of 12, hits 2 of his 3 threes. Josh Hart also had a good night, 20 points, 10 rebounds, hustling on the glass, also shooting above 50%, doing those Josh Hart things. Yeah, that shot wasn't falling, but he was driving really well, and we all know that Josh Hart is just one of the best hustlers in the league, and OG added 14 and 4 of his own on 50% shooting. Just all around, great game for New York. Bench did have a quiet night for New York. They didn't really need them at all, especially with how well the starting lineup was playing, so it didn't matter at all in the end. They did a solid job on the interior. They shot well above 50%. I think they actually shot above 60% from 2, but their 3-point shooting was a total nightmare. They go 3 of 30 from long distance, and it wasn't like they were getting clamped. They had a bunch of wide open looks that you will take any day of the week, especially for a team like the Pacers, and they just had one of those nights where you cannot hit anything. Those shots from downtown were not falling at any point throughout the game. I believe they missed 15 or 16 or 17 threes in a row at one point, and give credit to the Knicks as well. If they aren't shooting that well, fine, keep letting them shoot, and it led to the Knicks completely blowing them out. A bad night for Indiana starters as well. Tyrese Halliburton, Andrew Nembhard, and Aaron Nesmith combined for 6 points tonight. Tyrese Halliburton, it was a really, really, really bad night for him. He had as many points as I did. Yes, he put up a big fat 0 on the box score, only had 5 assists, was 0 of 8 from the field, and that 3 was not falling. Andrew Nembhard, he went 1 of 3. Did not have a good night, especially since that defense wasn't very good either. Aaron Nesmith, he was 2 of 5. Very quiet night for him as well. The Pacers' best player was by far Benedict Mathurin, who for the second game in a row had a really strong night off the bench. 20 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, shot above 60% from the field. He was the Pacers' best player last night. Indiana's bench, Jarris Walker had a solid all-around game, 12 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, few steals, 50% shooting, played just under 20 minutes as well. TJ McConnell had a few buckets and 5 assists. Isaiah Jackson was in double figures. Obi Toppin hit a few shots. The Pacers bench did exactly what they needed to do, which was outplay New York's bench and give the starters a chance to win this game. It was just the starting lineup had a really bad game. We already talked about Nesmith, Nembhard, and Halliburton. Miles Turner was okay. I guess he was the best of the Pacers starters. He had 13 points, 7 rebounds, shot just above 50% because it was also a quiet night for Pascal Siakam. He had just 12 points and didn't take that many shots. And give credit to the Knicks starting lineup. They did a sensational job completely outplaying Indiana's starting 5 and leading them to this blowout victory. Look to rebound on Sunday against the 76ers, and the Knicks will look to get another win Monday against the Cavaliers. Cavaliers, they got a 113-101 win against the Pistons last night. Cleveland advances to 2-0, and the Pistons are now 0-2. It was a tale of two halves. The first half was more offensive. Both teams were shooting the ball really well, and in the second half, the defense is completely tightened up. And in the first half, it seemed like Detroit actually had more of an edge for the first 18 to 20 minutes of the half. It seemed like the Pistons had a lead for a good majority of it, but the Cavaliers ended the first half off really strong, go on a run to end the second quarter. They take a 10-point lead into the half, and then the defense starts, and both teams really start doing a great job on the defensive end. Detroit gets it to as close as 4 in the third quarter, but Cleveland goes on a big run to end the third quarter off strong. It gives them a double-digit lead heading into the fourth, and they never relinquished it, giving the Cavaliers a double-digit victory. It turned out to be a great starting decision for Kenny Atkinson. He had 19 points, 5 rebounds. He had an assist as well. He shot a really efficient 7 of 9 from the field, did a great job and stepped up for Cleveland. Another guy that had a really good game, Evan Mobley. He had 16 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 6 stocks. Just a complete menace on the defensive side of the ball. One of the best defenders in the entire league. He also shot 50% from the field. Jarrett Allen, he also had a good night. 17 points, 11 rebounds, 2 assists. Had pretty good defense on Jalen Duren all night long as well. So even though it wasn't the most efficient night for Donovan Mitchell, who has 19 points, 5 assists, just goes 8 of 21 from the field, 1 of 8 from 3, the Cavaliers were able to make up for it by their all-around play and some really good performances off the bench as well. Was all right, 13 points, 2 rebounds, 6 assists. He was 5 of 11, hit a few threes, didn't have a bunch of opportunities, but he did what Cleveland asked him to do. Another guy that played well and has had 2 strong games off the bench now is Ty Jerome. He had 13 points, 2 rebounds, 4 assists in just 15 minutes. And once again, he looked really, really good. And I've been very impressed with the way he's been playing. Karis LeVert, he also had an efficient 9 points off the bench. He had 4 stocks as well. Nice night for Cleveland's bench. And even without Max Strus, they are seeming to find production from other guys. So when this team is fully healthy, they're going to have a really nice 3-man bench rotation of Dean Wade. They're going to have Isaac Okoro. They're going to have LeVert. They're going to have Jerome if he keeps playing like this. If the Cavaliers can, keep playing like this, they are going to be a really strong threat in the Eastern Conference. All-around game for Cade Cunningham. He had 33 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, shot above 55% from the field. I believe he went 14 of 24. And while his fourth quarter wasn't the best, he completely kept Detroit in this game through the first 3 quarters. He did a great job, and he got a lot of help from Jaden Ivey as well. The Pistons guards had a really strong night. Ivey has 22, 5, and 4 on 50% shooting of his own. Those two combined for 55 points, but it just wasn't enough in the end. Beasley wasn't bad. He had 13 points, 4 rebounds, had an assist, went 5 of 11 from the field. Made 3 of his 6 threes, though. Yeah, he did have a solid game. It was not a good night for Jalen Duren. He had 5 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, and he had a really tough assignment. Going against Jarrett Allen or Evan Mobley at all times is just not fun, so I'm not really going to kill him for it. Tobias Harris, he didn't really have that good of a night either. He had just 10 points, was 3 of 9 from the field, and while he was just 2 of 6, I do want to give some credit to Detroit's rookie, Ron Holland. He plays with a lot of intensity and a lot of heart, and he pesters on the defensive side of the ball. When him and Ausar, when Ausar gets healthy, are on the court together, that is going to be a very interesting defensive unit. I'm really, really intrigued to see how those two are going to play together because they could just create havoc out there. Teams play again tonight with Detroit taking on the Celtics and the Cavaliers taking on the Wizards. Have the Atlanta Hawks 115-110 win over the Charlotte Hornets. For a game that was so close and actually had big moments at the very end of it, the Atlanta Hawks never relinquished their lead. Charlotte did not have a lead once throughout this entire game, and that was partially because Atlanta started this game off so well on the offensive side. Actually, not the offensive side of the ball, the defensive side of the ball. Atlanta won that first quarter 28-16, and even though Charlotte came right back with a fantastic second quarter on the offensive side of the ball to make this a close game heading into half, and it was just back and forth, but Atlanta kept holding firm to this 2-3 possession lead. It was a very interesting game to watch because Charlotte was always there. They were right there for a good 70% of that second half, but they could just never break through. Atlanta did a great job at holding them off. The Hawks 2-0 start to the season. The Hornets now fall to 1-1. Perfect, but it was overall a great game for Trae Young. 38 points, 8 rebounds, 10 assists, shoots just under 50% from the field, and he saved his best quarter for last. He was great in the fourth quarter. He had an efficient 12 points. He had 4 assists as well, was great down the stretch, helped hold Charlotte off. Another guy that was great, Dyson Daniels, continues to look terrific next to Trae Young. Seems to be a seamless addition next to him. 18 points, 4 assists, 4 stocks, 80% from the field, playing great defense, really strong cutting-wise. This trade, DeJounte Murray trade, is already showing benefits for the Hawks. While DeJounte is the more talented player, Dyson Daniels fits perfectly next to Trae Young. Seamless fit. Well done. He has looked great so far, and he just can continue to grow this year. And someone said it online and said that, if he plays like this, he should be an MIP candidate, and I wholeheartedly agree. Another guy that had a good night for Atlanta was DeAndre Hunter. He had 24 points. He had 7 rebounds. He had 3 assists. He shot 50% from the field. He had a really good first half. He kind of tailed off a little bit in the second half, but still was all around a really good night for him. The best night offensively for Jalen Johnson. He had just 16 points on 15 shots. This is both games now where he's been inefficient, but again, he does stuff that transcends the box score. Really strong defender. He's becoming a better passer, and once he gets that shot down, it's going to be really tough to guard him. Centers had okay games. Onyeka had 7 and 8 on 50% shooting. Clint had 6 and 7 and made all of his shots, but both of them did get outplayed by Nick Richards. Garrison Matthews came off the bench, gave an efficient 8 points, and Zachary Reese-Sachet, he had just 5 points, went just 1 of 5 from the field, but kind of like last game, we know and can clearly tell through a few games that his defense is there. He's a strong defender. He just needs to get that shot down like it was going down in the preseason. An incredibly interesting night for LaMelo Ball. He started off slow, then he caught fire, scoring 18 points in the second quarter. Then he finished the night with 34 points. 28 minutes, 34 points. Shoots 50% from the field and makes 9 threes. You hear that and you think it's a wonderful game, but he had 4 assists and, count them, 10 turnovers. So you have to play that into a factor. His decision making just was not good, which was the complete opposite of Wednesday. Wednesday, his decision making was great. Last night, his decision making was not very good, but he also was part of the reason they were even in that game because of how well he was scoring. So you have to take the good with the bad there. Wasn't his best night, wasn't his worst night. I'd say it was overall a good game for him. Bridges was the second leading scorer for the Hornets. He had 27 points, 5 rebounds, didn't have a single assist. He shot a little under 50% from the field. Nick Richards, he had a solid game, started off a little slow, but he finished with 12 points, 13 rebounds, had shot 50% from the field. but it was just not a good night for the Hornets bench and their lower end starters. Grant Williams was a little inefficient. He did, though, have a solid passing game, led the Hornets in assists with 6. Seth Curry wasn't his best shooting night either. And as I said about 15 seconds ago, it was a bad night for the Hornets bench. Trae Mann, 17 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists. Looks good right through there, but wasn't his most efficient night. Shot just 6 and 19 from the field. He had his moments, had his few minute stretches, but overall wasn't his best game. Cody Martin didn't play that well either, and Vasiljevic played very poorly. And overall, it was just an interesting night for the Hornets offense. They, as a team, shot 38.5% from the field, but shot 41.2% from long distance. They took more than 50% of their shots from downtown, and it was a great night from the perimeter for them, especially for Lamelo Ball. Lamelo did really carry their three-point shooting, but it was a strong night on the perimeter for them, but a terrible night on the interior. Shooting under 37% from 2 is just not acceptable, and why they lost the game tonight. To rebound and get a win against the Miami Heat tonight, while the Hawks don't play again till Sunday, where they travel to Oklahoma City. The Bulls pulling off a shocking upset win, winning 133-122 over the Milwaukee Bucks. This was another game that was close throughout the first half. It seemed like Milwaukee was in control of the first half for a very large majority of it, but Chicago stayed close at all times. It was really, really neck and neck the entire way, and finally, in the third quarter, Chicago finally broke through, going on a big run to take the lead, but to start the fourth quarter, Milwaukee quickly countered. They got Chicago's double-digit lead right down to 1, and it looked like that it was going to be a neck-and-neck game until the Bulls quickly countered back with a run of their own. They brought that 1-point game right back up to double digits like that. They pulled away and got a great win on the road against a rival Milwaukee team. This is Kobe White, an absolute hooper. What a game from him. 35 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. He had 4 steals. He shot 60% from the field. He had 7 threes. Great decision making, great all-around game from start to finish. Just led the Bulls to victory last night. Another solid night. He had 25 points, 5 rebounds, shot 60% from the field, made a few threes as well. Josh Giddey also had a good game, 17.6 rebounds, 9 assists, and once again, when those shots are falling, he made both of his threes last night. When that 3 is falling, it opens up so much more of his offensive game. I said this Wednesday when I was talking about the Bulls when he shot poorly in the loss. When that shot is falling, it can open up the rest of his game so much more, and it showed tonight. It really did. Nikola Vucevic, 22 points, 10 rebounds, wasn't very good inside, but hit 4 of his 9 threes. Patrick Williams was in double figures. Jalen Smith was in double figures. It was a great all-around offensive performance for the Bulls, who had a great night from downtown. They go 21 of 47 from 3, own just under 45% from long distance. They shoot 48% from the field. Great offensive game for Chicago. They scored 70 second half points, which helped lead them to this victory. By Giannis, even in the loss, he got 38 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, shot above 65% from the field. It wasn't his best night from the free throw line, but I'll forgive it just for the posterizer on Nikola Vucevic. My goodness, that was a disgusting dunk. Also for the Bucks, Damian Lillard, he had 28 points, 4 rebounds, 8 assists. He shot above 50% from the field, but he was just 3 of 12 from long distance. Did a great job at driving to the cup, hitting those mid-range shots as well, but wasn't his best game from long distance. Had a solid night. He had 11 points, 8 rebounds, shot 5 of 7 from the field. Bobby Portis, he had his moments, 9 points, 12 rebounds, made a few shots, wasn't his most efficient night. Gary Trent Jr., same thing, 10 points, 3 of 8 shooting. AJ Green did have a solid night off the bench. He had 9 points, played some solid defensive points, made a few shots. But the one thing I have been worried about throughout the first few games for the Bucks has been Brook Lopez's offense. Defense was there again. He had 3 blocks. His rim protection is still there. It's been very paramount. He did a great job guarding Maxey this game. Got a few blocks with people going into the lane of this game. But his shooting just not been good. I believe he was 3 of 7 against Philadelphia. He was 2 of 10 tonight. And if that shot is not falling anymore, and it had its flaws, he had some really rough stretches last year, and if that continues into this year, it could mean a lot of troubles for the Bucks, because at one point, Brook Lopez was the seamless fit next to Giannis. A few years ago, 2021, when he was hitting that shot consistently, he was that seamless Giannis fit. But is that still the case? I don't think so, and we've really seen it through these first few games. Now, he can easily turn it around, and I can look like an idiot in a few weeks, but I just don't know if Brook Lopez is really Brook Lopez anymore. Look to get another win tonight against the Thunder, while Milwaukee doesn't play again till Sunday, where they will try and rebound against the Nets. Were able to bounce back from their second half collapse on Wednesday, beating the Memphis Grizzlies 128-108. Out to a very quick start, with both offenses coming out and firing on all cylinders. It was 38-38 after one, and Memphis started off the second quarter really strong. They took a double-digit lead. Offense was looking really well. They were getting some nice stops to start the second, but gradually, Houston started coming back. They cut it to 6 heading into the second half, and then in the third quarter, Houston completely flipped the momentum of this game. They win the third quarter 39-18, looking dominant on both sides of the ball, completely shutting Memphis offense, which had a great start, down, completely neutralized them, and a great defensive second half, along with their shots falling, led to Houston winning the second half 69-43 and getting a 20-point win. What made this Rockets win so impressive was that they had 7 different players in double figures. Jalen Green, Jabari Smith Jr., Fred VanVleet, Şengün, Dillon Brooks, Cam Whitmore, and Tari Eason all were in double figures last night. It wasn't the most efficient nights for guys like Jalen Green, Jabari Smith Jr., or Şengün. They all provided value. Jalen Green was shooting well from downtown, and both Jabari Smith and Şengün were dominating the glass. They combined for 31 rebounds between those two. Took all 9 of his shots from long distance and made 5 of them. Dillon Brooks had 18 points, shot a little under 45%, wasn't his most efficient night either, but the Rockets bench had a wonderful game. I already talked about Tari Eason. I already talked about Cam Whitmore. They both had strong nights. Amen Thompson, he had a good game. Reed Shepherd hit a few shots. The Rockets have so much depth, especially for a team that has so many young guys. They have an argument for being the deepest team in the league. I personally think it's probably the Indiana Pacers, but Houston is no slouch. And when you can get so many guys that provide a bunch of value to your team, it not only helps you against teams like Memphis who are short-handed, but when Houston is going to have injuries, because it's the NBA, come on, somebody's going to get hurt and some people are going to rest and people are going to take nights off, they can easily just implement guys easily and change their roles on a dime. And for a team that's going to try and fight for a play-in or playoff spot this year, that's a really great quality to have. Could not rebound last night. They allowed 64 Houston rebounds, including 23 of them being on the offensive side of the ball. Ja Morant He led Memphis in scoring with 24 points, but he did not have a good decision-making night. Had just 2 assists, including 6 turnovers. He had 6 of Memphis's 17 team turnovers last night. Had a great 12-point second quarter, but outside of that, he just did not have a good night. Just had 5 points in the first, third, and fourth quarters combined. Was really only efficient in that second quarter as well. Zach Edey, he had 13 points, 9 rebounds. Was much better than he was on Wednesday, but still got crushed on the glass. And it didn't help that he had to deal with both Shane Goon and Jabari Smith Jr., especially without Triple J, but it still wasn't the best night on the glass for him either. Aldama and Marcus Smart had quiet nights as well. Aldama had just 2 points on 2 shots, and Marcus Smart had 7 points on 25% shooting. Off the bench, Jay Huff had his moments. Shooting wasn't that great, but still had 8 points, shot a little under 50%. Scottie Pippen Jr., he was in double figures. John Conchar had a few buckets. Just the Grizzlies got a few garbage time buckets all around, but this is a game that they'd like to forget. They're going to have another chance tonight to rebound, and they'll look to do that pretty quickly. Go back home and take on the Magic, while the Rockets head on the road tonight to take on the Spurs. The Warriors getting another blowout win, winning 127-86 over the Utah Jazz. They started this game out on a 13-4 run, and that was the best moment of their game. Golden State immediately went on a run of their own, came back, and just completely dominated this game the rest of the way through. They had a huge run from the end of the first quarter to about the beginning of the second quarter, a few minutes into the second, and in the second half, they completely turned on blowout mode, just destroying Utah on both sides of the ball. The Warriors had a great night on the defensive side of the ball, holding the Jazz to just 86 points, which, along with the Thunder holding the Nuggets to under 90, I believe are the only 2 times we've seen a team get hold under 90 points so far this year, and their offense continues to look really strong as well. 106 shots last night. They went 48% from the field, 40% from 3, 20 of 50 from long distance, and they were able to hold Utah to a horrendous night from the field. The Jazz go 29 of 92 from the field, 31.5% from the field, and 21.4% from 3 as they go 9 of 42 from downtown. Buddy is off to an amazing start this season. Buddy Hield, great game once again. 27 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, 7 of 9 from long distance, 10 of 14 from the field. He could be a fantastic fit for Golden State. I mean, Steve Kerr having both Buddy Hield and Steph Curry on the court at the same time is going to be so fun to watch, and it really has been through the first few games of the season. Steph did have an inefficient night last night. He did just go 7 of 20 from the field, had 20 points, 3 rebounds, few assists. Andrew Wiggins also had an inefficient night, but he had a double-double, 10 points, 13 rebounds, 5 assists, was just 3 of 10 from the field. However, what really won Golden State this game was their bench play. I mean, more than everything won Golden State this game. They just completely dominated them. But one thing I did wanted to point out was their bench play. Pods, 15 and 5 off the bench. He had a strong game. Kyle Anderson had a strong game off the bench. Kevon Looney almost had a double-double in just 13 minutes. Moses Moody was in double figures. He had a strong game as well. Golden State's bench had a really nice game, so even though a few of their starters like Kuminga and Wiggins and Curry didn't have the most efficient nights, they were able to pick up the slack. And another guy who had a good game for Golden State that started was Trace Jackson Davis. In 16 minutes, 12 points, 9 rebounds, was perfect from the field. Just an all-around great, dominant win for the Warriors. To know how bad Utah's offense was last night, they had two players, Walker Kessler and Drew Eubanks, shoot above 50% from the field. They both took one shot and made it. From top to bottom, it was a rough game for Utah. We already talked about their rough defense. I already have made a jab at their offense, but their leading scorer had 14 points. John Collins, leading scorer, 14.7 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 of 10 shooting. Lauri Markkanen, he has a bad game. Keontae George, he has another rough shooting night. Taylor Hendricks did not make a shot. Walker Kessler, like I said, only shot above 50% because he took one shot. Jordan Clarkson, he shot below 50%. Bryce Sensabaugh, he shot 33%. All of these guys for Utah, you look down their entire depth chart, nobody really had that good of a game. It was just one of those games that you're going to take the film and throw it out. Just pretend it never happened because, oh man, that was one of the worst performances I've seen a team have so far this year. In fact, I think that is the worst performance I've seen a team have so far this year, which is crazy because they fought so hard against Memphis. They played a really good game against the Grizzlies. They just weren't able to come away with that comeback win in the end. And tonight, they were just putrid at all senses, and they're going to look to rebound very quickly from this bad loss. To rebound Monday night in Dallas, while the Warriors play again Sunday at home against the Clippers. Where this Pelicans Trail Blazers game turned into a fantastic game of basketball, a thriller to the end with New Orleans pulling away and winning 105-103. Game started off with Portland being in control. They had a great first quarter, winning the frame 27-15. They had an amazing first half on the defensive side of the ball in general, holding the Pelicans to just 37 first half points. Portland up by as much as 16 as 1 point, but the Pelicans start coming back in the third quarter. They have a much better third quarter, but Portland also has a strong third quarter on the offensive side as well. 38-37 in the third quarter. Pelicans, after scoring 37 first half points, score 38 in the third quarter. Makes it a 9-point game heading into the final frame. And finally, New Orleans really is able to break through. They go on a 26-7 run from the end of the third quarter to about midway through the fourth quarter. It gives them the lead, and it turned into a really fun game down the stretch. 2-3 minutes of this game were just so much fun to watch. Simons hits a floater to give Portland the lead. Jordan Hawkins responds right back with a mid-range jumper of his own. Simons comes down court, tries to hit a three, can't get it. Tsunami Kamara can't get the putback, and then both teams turn the ball over. Zion commits an offensive foul, and then Simons loses the ball. And then, right on the other side of the court, Zion has a layup. It's contorted, no good. Pelicans go down the court. Simons has it again. Thinks he's gonna have the moment, goes in, is blocked by CJ McCollum. The Pelicans go down court, have a chance. Brandon Ingram gets it, who had been having a good night all along, sizes up, pulls a fadeaway mid-range jumper for the lead. It's cash. Pelicans up 2. Blazers rush down the court. Their game-winning attempt is stuffed by both Herb Jones and Zion Williamson. The Pelicans hold on and get the win. Game of the season, it was not a good night for Zion Williamson. He had 16 points, 11 rebounds. He had 7 assists, but he was a rough 4 of 15 from the field. His layups were not falling at all throughout the night. He was getting to the cup well. He just wasn't finishing. Brandon Ingram, of course, hit that beautiful game-winning fadeaway. He had 21 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, shot 8 of 20 from the field, went 4 of 9 from 3 as well. CJ McCollum, he added 20 points of his own, shot just under 50%, but in my eyes, the player of the game for the Pelicans was absolutely Jordan Hawkins. 24 points, 8 of 12 from the field, 4 of 7 from 3, and he was tremendous in the fourth quarter. He had 15 of his 24 points in the final frame as I just looked down at it. 5 of 6 from the field, 2 of 3 from 3. He was huge. He had a few of those great mid-range jumpers too. He was sizing up, finding his spots perfectly. He was stopping, shooting, and every time he shot it, I had a feeling it was going to go in because that's how pure it looked for him. Of course, had the game-winning block. He had 8 points, made 4 of his 9 shots, but he did miss all 3 of his three-point attempts. And another guy I was really impressed with so far for New Orleans is Yves Missi. 8 points, 6 rebounds, few assists. I love his intensity. I'm a fan of his shot blocking, and I do think that Daniel Theis is going to be a nice little, a great mentor to him. Even Theis, 5 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 18 minutes. Wasn't great, wasn't terrible, but he's going to be there for some veteran leadership, and I think he's going to do a lot of wonders for Missi. Plus, there should definitely be some positives for the Portland Trail Blazers. Jeremy Grant, career high in threes made. He made 8 of his 17. Yes, he took 17 threes last night. 34 points, 6 rebounds, shot just under 50%, but it was an all-around good game for him. Another guy I was really impressed with was Scoot Henderson. He had a strong night. 15 points, 6 assists, 7 of 9 shooting. He had a few turnovers, but I liked what I saw from him, especially since he had a few steals. He was really doing a lot more on the defensive side of the ball than he was last year. Simons had 24 points and 7 assists, and he hit the shot to give Portland the lead with about 2.5 minutes left, but he shot just 30% on the night. He finished with a 6 of 20 shooting performance. He had 4 turnovers, and he just was playing way too much ISO ball down the stretch. Every shot in the final 2.5, 3 minutes was in his hands, and he wasn't even really looking to pass, which is partially why he got blocked on the final 2 possessions by CJ McCollum and Herb Jones / Zion, respectfully. He had a really rough night. He shot just 1 of 9 from the field, had just 2 points, may have had 6 assists, but was not a good offensive game for him. And for the big men, DeAndre Ayton, 10 points, 15 rebounds. His rebounding was good. His interior offensive play, no, 5 of 14 from the field. Missed a few wide open point-blank layups or dunks, too, that really shocked me. But the rookie Donovan Clingan, 4 points, 6 rebounds, made both of his shots, and had 4 blocks in 14 minutes. He's going to provide some really good defensive value for Portland this year, and I'm really interested to see if Clingan is really going to eat into Ayton's minutes this year. Those 2-game series that the NBA has been trying to do more over these last few years, so Portland's going to get another crack at New Orleans at home on Sunday. The Los Angeles Lakers pulled off a comeback win of their own, winning 123-116 against the Phoenix Suns. This one out perfectly. They had a fantastic first quarter on both sides of the ball, winning the frame 38-23. They jumped to a lead as big as 22 early in the second quarter, but their big issue from last year was holding leads in their fourth quarter play, and it reared its ugly head once again. The Lakers came crawling back near the end of the second quarter, at least making it a single-digit game heading into the half, and the Lakers completely blew this game open in the second half. They went on a big 24-7 run near the end of the third quarter into the beginning of the fourth quarter. They came back, took the lead, had it for most of the fourth quarter while Phoenix kept it semi-close. The Lakers went up as much as double digits at one point. They pulled away and got a great win, and One thing I've been so impressed with so far through the first two games of the Lakers season has been JJ Redick's coaching. For a guy that hadn't coached really above like a middle school level, I was a little concerned just because, he hadn't coached with amazing players, like NBA players before, but he's added these schemes and these X's and O's and these adjustments, and they've done wonders for the Lakers so far. It's crazy what happens when you have actual in game adjustments. It's a crazy idea, and the Lakers have been really strong through the first few games of the year. Anthony Davis, another tremendous performance for him. 35 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, played great on both sides of the ball, was 11 of 18 from the field, and was able to get to the line 17 times. Reeves also had a great game. He had 26 points, 4 rebounds, 8 assists, had 4 stocks. He shot 8 of 12 from the field and made 5 of his 7 threes. Was an all-around strong night for him. For LeBron, he was a little cold in the first half, didn't really do much, but he turned it on in the second half, especially on the offensive side of the ball. He finishes the game with 21 points, 4 rebounds, 8 assists, 7 of 13 shooting, along with a few made threes. Mora also played good in the evened number quarters. First and third quarter wasn't very good, but in the second and fourth quarters, he played pretty well. He finished the night with 14 points, 7 rebounds. For the rest of the Lakers, Dalton Knecht, he had 8 points, shot 40% from the field, 2 of 4 from 3. He looks like a really strong addition for the Lakers, looks like a great pick. Jackson Hayes, he once again had some solid moments, 6 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, made all of his shots. And D'Angelo Russell, despite having a bad game, just 5 points, 5 assists, really inefficient, 1 of 6 night. The rest of the Lakers were able to pick him up. Thank you to AD, thank you to Reeves, thanks to LeBron, and even, the good amount of their depth played well, even though they didn't score that much. This is just a great all-around win for the Lakers, and if I were a fan of them, I'd be really excited with how they've played for the first few games of the year. Kevin Durant was the best player for the Suns. He finished with 30 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, was an efficient 11 of 17 from the field. It was a tale of two halves for Bradley Beal. He came in and had 9 points and 8 assists in the first half. He also shot pretty efficiently, but in the second half, those shots just were not falling, and his passing just completely went away. I don't know what happened to him, but he went from having a great first half to a really poor second half. Another guy who just did not have that good of a night was Yusuf Nurkic. He had 4.7 rebounds, 4 assists, was completely dominated by Anthony Davis on both sides of the ball. Also a night to forget for Yusuf Nurkic, who had 4.7 rebounds, was really inefficient, shot just 1 of 5 from the field, and was completely outplayed by Anthony Davis. He played just 18 minutes as well, as Phoenix either went small or they went with Mason Plumlee, who looked much better out there. He finished with 6 points, 7 rebounds, much more efficient, and was actually a plus 14 on the night. Another guy who had a tale of two halves night, kind of like Bradley Beal did, was Tyus Jones. He was really dormant in that first half, but in the second half, he was much better. Finished the night with 14 points, 4 assists, shot just above 60% from the field. Monte Morris had a few buckets. Ryan Dunn had a few buckets, but in the end, it just wasn't enough. And Phoenix's all-around play was just terrible. In the third quarter was the quarter that I was really, really disappointed with them in. But their defense just was not good enough down the stretch. They let the Lakers get way too many open looks late, and their shots just stopped falling. Teams play again tonight, with the Suns at home against the Mavericks and the Lakers at home against the Kings. Includes the 10 games from the NBA yesterday. It was a really good slate in my eyes. I had a lot of fun watching a lot of these games. If you stayed to the end of this video, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I hope you guys have a rest of your day. have a rest of your day. That'd be pretty cool. Have a rest of your day. Yeah, I don't even need to say anything else. You guys have a rest of your day. God bless, and I will be back with a 10-game recap for tomorrow's NBA games.